Hi everyone, this is the Do3 Podcast. This is for anyone who loves swimming, cycling or running, or of course, likes to do all three. My name is Dave Knight and I'm a professional triathlon coach based in the UK. Along with my excellent co-coaches, who you'll get to know along the way, we spend our daily lives helping those who love to swim, bike and run. We want this podcast to inspire you, motivate you, make you laugh and cry, have fun and learn a thing or two. We want to help you get the most out of the sports that you love. I'm glad you found us and we hope you stick around. Welcome to the Do3 Podcast. Hi everyone and welcome to episode 12 of the Do3 Podcast. And in this podcast we talk to Melanie Barratt. Now Melanie is an incredible swimmer who has won golds at 2 Paralympic Games. She's won multiple World Championships and just about everything else there is to win in the world of elite swimming. She's also just swum the English Channel. And I forgot to mention, Melanie is blind, yet Melanie has just become the first blind athlete to swim the Channel. Now, if you don't find this inspiring and motivating, I don't know what will. We hope you enjoy the podcast, and if you do, please consider subscribing. Our channel is here to help and support regular people get into and improve at the sports we love. Right, Melanie, thank you very much for coming along.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
No, that's no problem. You're an absolute legend in these parts at the moment. You've been swimming at Compton Verney with us on and off this season and kind of got to know you from there. And I heard a rumour that you were doing something slightly crazy this summer. And that and other things is what we'd like to talk to you about.
Yeah, sure.
So let's start by, why don't you kind of introduce yourself, Melanie, and tell me a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I'm assuming you don't want to know my age because that would be embarrassing.
And I'll leave that completely up to you.
I can't even work it out. I'm somewhere between 45 and 50.
I know the feeling.
And I used to swim. Probably the easiest place to start is by explaining about what I can see. Okay. So I'm registered blind, but I think probably about 90 to 95% of people who are registered blind aren't actually completely blind, so I do have some sight. So my left eye is a full sight, and the right eye I can see, it's 2/60, so that basically means when you go to the opticians and you sit in the chair, I can see the top letter from about 2 meters away.
Okay.
In functional terms, that basically means I can see like colours and shapes. But because I've had this sight all my life, I've kind of adapted to it and I don't know any different. So, yeah. I mean, it is quite difficult for me to explain what I can see to you because I don't know what you can see.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah, I got into sport quite at an early age because I went to a sporty school, but didn't really get into swimming until I was, probably about 13 or 14 or so when a charity called British Blind Sports came to the school to try and teach us to swim. And I quite enjoyed being in the water and the feeling of it all around me and everything like that. So, kind of just got into it from there, really.
Yeah, okay.
Do you want me to carry on talking about what?
Yeah, you carry on. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, they basically, British Blind Sports taught me how to swim and took me to competitions. And I wouldn't say I was particularly sporty when I was a teenager. I can remember enjoying eating chocolate and reading books and being rather lazy more than anything else. But it was more when I got towards my later teens that I actually really started to be a bit more competitive minded. And I had a friend who went to the Paralympics in '92 and I was quite envious of it. And I'm quite a competitive person, so I wanted to beat her. So that kind of spurred me on to join my local club, which was Kenilworth Masters at the time. And I was too young really to join, but they took me under their wing and they helped me develop my stroke a bit better and taught me technique. And then British Blind Sports took me to my first international in 1993. And then kind of it just went on from there, really.
So swimming, obviously we're here to talk about swimming predominantly, but swimming is your kind of historical sporting background. So when did you actually start swimming? Like kind of on a formal kind of basis, on a regular basis with a club?
I would say that when I was probably about 17, so it was quite late for a swimmer. That was when I joined Coventry Swimming Club and started going at silly o'clock in the morning and all that kind of thing. But in a way, I think it's good that I was that old, because I decided it was something that I wanted to do, and I got myself up and I had to go and wake my parents up and for them to take me. Because obviously I can't drive, so even though I was 17, they still had to take me. And they took me all around the country to lots of different places. So probably late teens, with Coventry Swimming Club. Some very horrible memories of getting up at silly o'clock in the morning, and the smell of Coventry swimming baths was a very particular type of smell that I never smelled anywhere else, and it always made me feel sick at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Is that the one that's closed down now?
Yeah, it's gone now.
It was I think I swam there once actually, and it was like a T shape, wasn't it? A large T shape.
Yeah, because of the diving pit.
Yeah. I can remember it being it was quite an impressive kind of building.
It was. There used to be pigeons up in the ceiling.
So obviously joining through a swimming with a swim club, you would be swimming multi-stroke. So yes. What was your favourite stroke then?
Front crawl. It's always been my favourite. I do enjoy doing butterfly. But having said that, I haven't done that for a while. Although I do occasionally. I do the odd length or two, but I've not done that big sets of butterfly for a long time. But I like the feeling of it. Yeah, don't like breaststroke at all, and backstroke isn't particularly good either. Yeah. And how did you find? Now, I hope I really don't sound ignorant when I ask some of these questions about your site and about what you can see and how you manage, because clearly I've got no idea. No.
But in terms of swimming, explain to me how you navigate, even in a pool, how you navigate. How because one thing we've noticed from seeing you swim at Compton Verney here in the lake is you can swim straight as die.
Everybody says that.
Which is I can see perfectly well, and I can't swim straight. So how did you kind of overcome that when you were starting as a swimmer?
I think when I was swimming in the pool, when I do swimming in the pool, I've learned to swim along a lane rope and without banging into it, because it's painful, isn't it, when you do that, or banging into the other swimmers. So I think possibly I've developed a very even stroke so that I swim straight. And I rely on how my body feels in the water rather than looking for things, perhaps. That might be why I'm straighter. And I in a pool, and I think I can count strokes to work out where I am, or there's things to look for, like the lane rope changes colour, and obviously there's the black mark on the bottom, which I can see. I can't judge the distance because I can only see out of one eye, but generally I know what to look for. And I have had that said to me before this year as well about swimming straight, because I went to a swimming camp in Croatia, and there was about 16 of us, and one of the guides said when we're all at dinner one night that interesting, out of everybody that swims here, who do you think is the one who swims the straightest? And it's to be me, which is quite amusing. But I wonder if it's because I don't rely on anything else other than the way my body feels and like the balance of my stroke. And I can't. That's the only reason I can imagine, because I don't. Although I can see colours and shapes, so I am aware of my surroundings, but I don't look for things in particular. If that makes sense. Yeah. I'm not sighting, and it's difficult to explain, really.
So you're not sighting in the regular way that I would sight.
No. So we're kind of jumping ahead quite a long way here. But for instance, like around Compton Verney. I've learnt it's a bit like a swimming pool in certain places that I can swim along the side and I can see the green, and then I kind of just put my head down and swim a bit, probably about another 10 strokes, and because I know you've got very bright yellow buoys, so I swim until I can see it from maybe 5 meters away, maybe a bit less than that, but I just swim straight until I can see it, and then I turn, and I've got the whole course in my mind. So it would be awful if I didn't swim straight, wouldn't it? Because I'd be all over the place. I think that's when I would need to have a guide swimmer. Yeah. So in a way, I guess I'm really lucky that I do swim straight. I don't know if it's because of what what I rely on and what I use, or because of just my body's ability to swim in a very balanced way.
So when you swam with Coventry, were you swimming with the rest of the squad?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, you were having to stay on your side.
Yes.
You're having to make sure that
Yeah.
you got to go straight.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Because I couldn't see. Sometimes I could see people coming, but not all the time.
Yeah.
So I knew that I had to stay over my side of the lane rope, and I know that if I don't swim straight, it'll be bouncing into it, which isn't very nice. So maybe over the years, I've just developed the ability to swim dead straight so that I don't hit the lane rope or the other people.
Yeah.
And that could be why.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So 17, you got into swimming, and your mate was at the Paralympics, and you wanted to beat her.
Yeah.
So what was the next part of the swimming journey from there then?
So I was selected to go to my first international. I was in my first year of A-level, so I must have started a little bit earlier than that, because my first international was when I was 17, 18. And that was with British Flying Sports. We went to Rome for the European Championships, which was quite an interesting experience, because it was at the time when they didn't really think a lot of the Paralympics. So we were just put in this little really crappy kind of boarding school place with a really rubbish swimming pool that we got taken to on a bus every day to compete. So it was very, very, very low key.
Yeah.
But it was my first international, so obviously it meant a lot to me, getting my tracksuit and all that kind of thing. But it was everybody that'd been at Barcelona the year before, they were like really disgusted by it all, because it really was very poor. But that's just the way it used to be in those days with disability sport, unfortunately.
So when was that? What year were we talking?
93.
Okay.
So the year after Barcelona.
Yeah. And then how did you do there?
What did I do? Going back away now.
Don't worry.
My parents actually framed them because it was my first international. I got some medals. I think I got some bronzes and some silvers, but I can't remember what. But like I said, it was a really low-key kind of bit of just the whole experience was a bit forgettable, shall we say.
Yeah. And you got selected for the Paralympic Games?
Yes, that was 96, yeah.
That was 96. Okay. So tell me about that experience. I mean, that must be incredible.
Atlanta? Yeah, it was. I mean, obviously it was something that I've been working up to over quite a few years, and I'd gone to university by then, so I was trying to balance training with the swimming at university. So, everybody that's triathlon is probably well aware of what it's like getting up at 5:30 or earlier, and then doing your training, then going to work or university, and then coming back and doing some more later in the evening. So it was basically just uni or swimming. So at the end of that first year, I went to Atlanta, and I'd seen it on the TV in the Paralympics on the TV before, and I just could never imagine what it'd be like. So it was an amazing experience. The meeting all the people from all around the world, and all the athletes, and the competition was really strong, really fierce, and the pool was amazing. But behind the scenes, it was all a bit crap again.
Okay.
Atlanta, I think America kind of like of the Olympics, they'd shut down a lot of the village. So whereas the Olympic Village had like an amazing food hall and a mixed area where you could meet other people, social area, and a shopping area, and even like a leisure pool, I think they had, that had all shut down. So all we had was like the university accommodation and a food hall, which was a tent, and then our venues. So it was a bit sort of disappointing, I would say.
Yeah.
So like it was a bit of an afterthought.
Yeah.
But the main thing, the competition was really, really good.
Yeah.
So that was, I entered the swimmers tend to do a lot of events.
Yeah.
I didn't even enter the 100 backstroke there. I did the 100 backstroke, 100 fly, 200 medley, 50 freestyle, and the 400 freestyle. And we did a couple of relays.
Yeah.
And I got the gold in the 400 freestyle and the silver in the freestyle relay.
Amazing.
So yeah, I wasn't actually expecting to win. I can remember in the run-up to the games, there was this American swimmer called Trisha Zorn, and she hadn't been beaten for many years, and she was like the darling of the Paralympic team for the Americans. So she was like the favourite for everything. But I managed to I think I came second to her in the heats, and then I managed to beat her in the final. And I was as shocked as everybody else was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was amazing. It was really special time. I brought it along. I brought the medals along.
Oh wow!
Let's see, get up the right one now. So this is only brought the golds. Yeah. So this is the one from Atlanta.
Yeah, amazing.
So they kind of epitomise it, I think, because it looks good on the telly.
Okay. Okay.
But then you feel it, especially the box they came in. They feel a bit kind of tacky compared to the other one, which I'll show you when I get to that point.
I kind of know what you mean, but I really don't want to comment because it's a Paralympic gold medal, and I don't know. Yeah. I don't want to do a gold medal down in any way I've said before, but I mean it's pretty special.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so it's lots of happy memories and I'd say lots of experiences and it kind of brings back lots of things holding this. Yeah. But also, the stressful times, as you can imagine, competition is always quite stressful, isn't it? And the nerves, call-up room, all that kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, I'll say, I've got absolutely no idea.
What a call-up room is, just about three or so races before yours, you have to go and sit in this room with everybody else that you're competing against, and it can be incredibly stressful. I was quite lucky in that I didn't have some really overconfident people. I know some people have basically lost their races in the call-up room because they've just been completely psyched out. Yeah. And then the race before yours, you have to sit in a long line next to all the people. And the atmosphere in there was just really quite hard, quite difficult. It's a bit like waiting in a dentist waiting room for some major surgery, I would say.
Like you're not nervous enough.
No, I know, just make it even worse.
They want to put you in the room like a melting pot with
I can remember, this is jumping ahead again, but in Sydney, I can remember sitting in this room, and it was the day after I'd won the 400 freestyle the day before, and it was the 100 freestyle, which I had no chance of winning. And there was a Chinese girl who basically, she was about 3 or 4 seconds faster than everybody else, and she got the world record, all this kind of thing. She was unbeatable. And so I think she was sat next to me because I qualified second. And anyway, I was sat there, kind of, you get into the zone where you just like, I wasn't listening to music, but I was completely focused and I'm really in the zone. And this volunteer that knew me, because she'd kind of like helped out in the past, and we'd kind of spoken in the past, and she I think she'd done some coaching with me before. She was in the room and I didn't know it. She came up behind me and she put her hands on my shoulder, and she put just on my shoulder, and I put a face here, which is in my blind side. She goes, "Come on, Melanie, get the world record." And I'm not joking. I went, "Fuck off!" really loud, and the whole room went. I was just mortified because it was just like my instinctive reaction was like, God, she made me jump. And she also I was in such a focused frame of mind. Just, oh God, I was so embarrassed.
So make sure we don't make you jump.
It was just a completely inappropriateness. I can't speak. Inappropriateness of it, if that's the word. But afterwards, she never spoke to me again. Afterwards, one of the other guys, I think it was a couple of days later, one of the other guys in the call room came up and said to me, "A lot of people were quite shocked by what you said the other day, but I understand why you did it." So I was just so shocked and like taken aback by it all. So you have to get into the zone in this room, and it's all very pressurized. And there are lots of memories from Atlanta. And
did your life? How was your life at the time in terms of outside of swimming? Were you working? Were you still a student then, or?
Atlanta, I was still a student. Yeah. I was at Birmingham University, so I basically didn't have much of a social life because it was swimming, really. Swimming in the morning, university, swimming in the evening, and then like worrying about getting to sleep because I've got to get up the next day. So it was quite difficult. But that's what we have to do, isn't it, as athletes? Yeah. When it came to Sydney 4 years later, the lottery funding had come in. So that made a big difference for a lot of different things. Like we had lots more training camps and a lot more support. But for me, the biggest difference was that I was able to train full time. So I moved to Bath and trained at the high performance centre there, which basically meant that all I had to worry about was swimming, and that was it, really. And yeah, when you look back on times in your life when you think, God, I never knew how good I had it.
Yeah.
Basically, all I did was swim. Like, I'd get up in the morning, go swimming, come back, lounge around a bit, and, might pop into town. I felt like it, come back, go swimming again. And that was it, really. At really sociable times as well. It was 8 till 10 and then 4 till 6. So
no ridiculously
perfect.
early mornings.
No, absolutely perfect.
And did that funding cover that, like your accommodation, your living expenses? You literally could just train and that was all covered?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it would cover looking at living with a family or kind of family life. But for me, it covered the accommodation and the food and everything in Bath. If I was going to go to a competition or go to go away internationally to a camp or something, that's all funded anyway. That I don't pay anything for that. That would have just come out of the the team funding. So the only thing that basically my whole life, it was like a job, really, I guess.
Yeah, amazing.
But tax free, so that was great.
And tell me about Sydney then. How did that go?
Well, Sydney was very different to Atlanta in lots of different ways. So I think it was. They christened it the Games of the New Millennium because it was Sydney 2000, but I think also it was the kind of like the dawn of the new Paralympic era. So there was a lot more, especially in Australia, there was a lot more awareness of it, and I think they started to put a lot more on the TV because in Atlanta in '96, you only got to be interviewed by the BBC if you won a gold medal, and they had like a half an hour program which they showed every night, and that was it. If you didn't get a gold, then they didn't even feature it. But in Sydney, it was a little bit longer. It's not like it is now. And there certainly wasn't social media, was there? It was more, I don't know how many programs they had, but they were more interested if you won a medal. But if you didn't win a medal, they wouldn't show it. But if you were able to win a medal, then you got on the program. So there was a little bit more coverage. But the village and the way Sydney ran the Olympics, the Paralympics, was really, really, really inclusive. So the village had been built for the Paralympics. So all the houses were accessible for wheelchairs, and the buses that went around the village were accessible for wheelchairs, and everything was built with the Paralympics in mind. All the venues and all of the accommodation and all of the facilities that we used and the food hall and everything. It was all just really welcoming, and we actually felt like sports people. There was an amazing amount of athletes, obviously from lots of different countries, and we were encouraged to mix and share pin badges and all that kind of thing. And the amount of kit that we got given was, huge amount of kit, which was really exciting. Yeah. And we were treated like athletes, really, so like we should be. And the support was incredible. So I can remember walking out for my races, and there were like thousands and thousands of people watching. It was completely full, which was great. Really, really amazing reception. Yeah. I think it was a lot more stressful for me than it was in Atlanta because I'd won the 400 meters every year since Atlanta. So I was almost seen as a guaranteed gold medal. So if I didn't win, then it was something that I did wrong. So I had pressure on myself, but also I felt a lot of pressure from outside as well. So I don't think I really enjoyed it as much as I could have done. And if I could go back now to that time, I would try and experience it a lot more, just try and live in the now or live in the present rather than worrying about what I'm going to be doing when I race.
That's really interesting, actually, that you felt that way, because obviously that's what athletes are feeling. You think they're you watch some of the Olympics and you think that they're living the dream and they're enjoying every moment of it.
I don't know if I'd had some kind of psychological support or some kind of way of putting it back in a box somewhere and then just living in the present and experiencing it and enjoying the experience and getting some good memories, because all I've got of Sydney is kind of I can see how good it could have been, but it was just so stressful that all I was worrying about was that 400 freestyle. And when I finished and I won it, the overwhelming feeling was just sheer relief. I can remember very clearly touching the wall and just like the relief just washing over me and just feeling like, God, so far I've done it.
But you did it.
Yeah, I know.
All that pressure. And I know. You still managed to do it.
Yeah, I know. It's I do feel a bit sad though that I didn't manage to to enjoy the whole experience. And it was just that, just the race that was the most important thing. But there were some happy times after I won it, but it's overshadowed by the whole stressful situation, which I think is very common in the Olympics and the Paralympics, especially maybe even more so today because it's so well known, and that that it's all over the social media, and you can't hide, can you? If you've done a bad race, then it's obvious, everybody can see. I brought the Sydney gold medal as well, which is very different.
Better quality box.
I did bring the box, but the box was a lot better than this one. That's than Atlanta, that's for sure. It's quite a substantial box, and the flowers were picked from all around Australia, so they were really nice as well.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, wow.
So it's very different.
Yeah. Are they the same medals as the Olympic athletes?
No, they're very different, actually.
Are they? Okay.
I think the Olympics has to have the Pantheon in it. I think it is. But the Paralympics, they can basically do what they want. So they've got artistic license. Right. So that one's got like the Harbour Bridge on it, and also the Sydney Opera House.
Yeah, fantastic. Where'd you keep them?
Luckily, when we moved into our house we're in at the moment, the guy that we bought it off left this big glass display case that is perfect because you can open it up and get them out. Because I didn't want to frame them because I wouldn't be able to bring them on to things like this.
Yeah.
And also it's tall enough to put an Olympic torch in, because I got the Olympic torch from 2012. So that's in there, and then all my medals.
You've got the Olympic torch?
Not the one of them.
That's very impressive.
No, it's not it's one of them.
How many Olympic torches are there with these?
Oh, I think there was 4,000.
Right.
For the London 2012.
Yeah.
They were very cool.
I'd like to see that too. Bring that in.
I should have brought that, shouldn't I? That is very impressive. It's about this big. It's huge.
Yeah.
Really big. Yeah.
Okay. It hasn't got anything in it.
No, they'll take the innards out.
Right.
So you can't go around with it. Oh, it's a shame. That would be cool.
So that was Sydney.
Mm-hmm.
And then where did you go from there?
So also in Sydney, I won a silver in the 100 freestyle, which after that interruption in the call-up room, I did manage to go and perform and get my silver medal, and a bronze in the 200 medley. And then I went home and I kind of felt like I'd done everything that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like I'd won the Paralympics and the World Championships and everything, and the Europeans, and I didn't really want to continue being a full-time athlete. I wanted to kind of use my brain, I guess.
Yeah.
Plus, I thought I was getting old. This was at the age of, 24? Thinking I was too old to carry on, but in hindsight, I could have kept going for a good deal longer. But
do what you had.
Well, I don't know. I mean, like I said, it was an amazing time to be paid to do something like that and to have that life, but I didn't realise it at the time. I probably would have wish I'd carried on for another Olympic cycle. I would have loved to have gone to London. That would have been the most amazing thing to do, but I think it would have been very difficult to. I think what I found really hard was to be at the top and everybody kind of chasing me. That was quite hard.
Yeah.
Rather than having to beat somebody else. I'm looking over my shoulder at people who are trying to beat me all the time, which was quite stressful. And I just wanted to move on and have a bit more of a relaxed life. I think I found the competition quite stressful. Now, if I think about standing on the blocks about to start a race, I just feel so sick with nerves. Even if it was just like a little gala or even a time trial at a training session, I just can't face standing on the blocks. I'd hate to do it. So I think probably it was the right time to retire then. So I started a physio degree. And actually, first of all, I finished off my research and got a postgraduate research. And then I started the physio degree and qualified as a physio in 2004. And then I worked in the NHS for about 12 years.
Right.
And during that time, I tried a few different sports. I kept swimming just for fun. I tried, doing stuff in the gym, but it was a bit boring. Had a go at tandem cycling, and a bit of rowing. And then I did triathlon, which I'm not really a very good runner. So that was quite hard. Tandem cycling was quite good.
Yeah.
So the swimming and the cycling went together quite well, but then I had always looking over my shoulder in the run. So I found that I just can't run. End up getting injured.
But it's really interesting that you did, like I say, you won the Olympics and you won the World Championships multiple times, and you're winning everything, and you ticked all the boxes. And for you to get to the point where, because a lot of super elite athletes get to that point, don't they? So what is now the motivation, just to keep on doing it again and to have more medals than anybody else? And where do you go from that? It's really interesting that you kind of got to that point. But now looking back, kind of maybe wish you could have done it a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But equally, if you go into a different sport, is anything gonna take you to that place that swimming took you to again? Because you
mean like
you're so used to being at the top.
Yeah. I guess it depends on what I want to achieve in sport, really.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Why I do the sport. So from a kind of personal level, I think it's not really about the medals. It's about me trying to better myself and to push myself to see, I don't know, my limits and ultimately something that I really enjoy doing. And I don't think I really enjoy competing. I don't like the stress of racing head to head. I don't know if I've ever really enjoyed it. I think that's why I like the 400, because I like to go out as hard as I can and just get ahead of everybody, and then I don't end up with a head-to-head race. And maybe that's why I do long-distance open water swimming, because it's just a lonely, you do it on your own kind of thing, don't you? Just inside your own head.
And when did you get into that?
So I kind of always thought that it would be an amazing thing to do. And then sort of open water swimming and pool swimming is the equivalent to me as running on a treadmill and running outside.
Yeah.
But I just thought it would be impossible to do. And it was only probably 4 or 5 years ago now, probably 4 years ago, that a friend of mine she'd done a couple of English Channel attempts, and I'd asked her if she could take me to the river and just have a go in the river and see what it was like. And I was wearing a wetsuit at the time, but I still went in the cold water, and it was still the cold water shock and everything that we all know about. But I just felt it was an amazing place to be, like surrounded by nature and the wind in my hair and the smelling of the water and hearing all the birds and everything like that. It's just immersed in nature, really. And I just love the feeling of being there, and then the buzz you get afterwards is amazing. And I was really hooked. And then I was thinking, well, what I would really love to do is to swim outside, and there must be a way to do this. And I just want to do it for me, not to race. I just want to do it to do it just to enjoy doing it and just to achieve it for myself. I didn't want to race anybody. So unbelievably now, I entered my first race was a 10K, open water 10K, which it was only when I looked at the training plan that I found online that I realised just how far that was. And I was like, oh, this was during lockdown as well. So how am I going to do this? And also I had to work out how to swim in open water as well, because obviously, people who've got normal vision can sight on things in the distance and swim towards them. Whereas I couldn't do that. So how I was going to navigate around this course, which was in a lake in Snowdonia. So it was going to be 4 laps of a big lake when I had to get around the buoys. And my initial thought was, I'll just swim and I'm sure I'll get around it. But then I realised actually that's not going to work, is it? So I came up with the idea of having my husband in a kayak next to me. We got a really bright green kayak, which I could see when I turned my head to breathe. So we tried that on the river a few times and it seemed to work okay. I did the rest of my training in the pool, following this plan that I found online.
Yeah.
And then went up and down the River Avon to get used to swimming with him. And then we went to, it was Talalin Lake in Snowdonia. And it was really grim, windy day as it can be in Wales. And that was quite an interesting experience because obviously he was getting blown all over the place. I was trying to follow him and I couldn't hear him, and he was trying to shout to me and I couldn't hear anything. So that was quite a lengthy 10K. I can remember I got the most horrendous cramp in my legs as well. I think there was something wrong with my wetsuit. I think I pulled it up so far that it had dug into my, this is a rookie mistake, I guess, dug into my calf muscles. And then I had some wetsuit socks, which I didn't want to come off. So I Velcroed them really tight around my calf muscles. And so after like 1.5 laps, I got the worst cramp I've ever had in both legs. And it kind of spread all the way up my legs. I can remember swimming around with my feet, like trying to stretch them, pointing down at the bottom. It was awful.
You got circulation off of you.
Oh, I know. It was really bad. Oh, that's all I can remember. That and swimming into the back of Richard's kayak several times. So that was quite an experience.
Yeah.
And I can remember when I got out, the guy that had organised it said to me, "Oh, well done. So what's next?" And in the back of my head, I heard like, "Well, the English Channel." And I thought, no, that's just ridiculous. Let's forget about that.
And that was lockdown, you said?
It was that was 2022, but okay. I'd entered it in lockdown in 21.
So only a couple of years ago then?
Yeah. That was it 2020? Yeah, it must have been 2022. June 2022, that was. But I got the real bug for swimming outdoors. I really enjoyed it. I think I just loved the feeling of it just being me, not racing anybody, and just doing it for my own personal challenge, really, and overcoming quite a lot to get there. Yeah. But then I thought, there's got to be a better way of doing this than bumping into the back of a kayak and Richard trying to shout at me and me not hearing anything. We also did the Thames Marathon that year, and another race in Abu Dhabi as well. Using the same method of him in the kayak shouting to me, and it was just very frustrating. And in the race in Abu Dhabi, that was an actual. Well, actually, no, both the Thames Marathon as well, because there was a lot more people in the Thames Marathon, and that was quite challenging because you have to get out at 3 locks, I think it is. So he had to try and tell me when I was going to get out, but he couldn't, and he had to try and get me around people and obstacles, which he obviously couldn't. So it was very challenging, and I think he found that quite stressful. Yeah. It wasn't that enjoyable. I think I shouted at him, and then I had to apologise at the end. And that made me realise there's got to be a better way of doing this. And then we did, in Abu Dhabi, it was beat the tide. So you go up the river 2 kilometres, turn around and come back again. And on the way back, I really wanted to get not a medal, because you don't get medals generally in open water swimming, but I wanted to get a podium finish.
But you're not competitive?
No, not at all. It was the first time that I'd swam skins as well. So that was quite exciting. So we went up the river, turned around and come back again. And they hadn't timed it exactly right. So we were still swimming against the tide. So it was a really, really long way back. And I can remember thinking, well, I've got to be getting near the finish now. And I'd put on like a sprint finish. And then I'd realised we're going for a long time now. And this isn't the finish, is it? And then I'd stop sprinting. And then I'd like another 10 minutes go by. And it's got to be near the finish now. So I started sprinting again, because there was no way of me knowing. I couldn't see. And I wanted to get all the effort out that I could. And so I just having these like false finishes for quite a long time, because Richard obviously couldn't communicate with me at all. Then I went after where did I come in the end? I think I did come third, which I was very excited about. Then I looked on the internet to do some research, and I came up with these. First of all, I used my Duke's headset, which is like a radio, and then the headset was bone conducting headset. And that was, as soon as I got that, it was just incredible. It meant that we went on holiday just after we got it, and Richard sat on a sunbed with a pint of beer, giving me directions where to swim in the sea. And it was amazing because I could hear everything, and it was like he was there telling me where to go, and it was just a complete game changer.
Okay.
So after that, the next year I did the Thames Marathon again, and a Windermere one way, and a couple of other events. And he was able to guide me around all the obstacles and tell me where I was in the race and how much further I've got to go. And it meant I could actually, if I wanted to, I could actually race people.
And he's still at the bow, or was he on the bank?
So he could, if it's a lake like Compton Burney, for example, he could stand on the side and guide me around. Or for the Thames Marathon, he was in his kayak again. He didn't do Windermere with me. It was somebody else was on a big motorized boat. She guided me with the headset. So yeah, it made it's kind of leveled the playing field a lot. I didn't have to worry about any obstacles or where I was going. I just kind of relied on him to guide me.
Yeah.
And it made a massive difference. So then we were able to do, a team of 6 of us were able to do swim across Lake Geneva last summer. And that was an incredible experience. It was amazing. 71 kilometers. It took us about 26 hours, I think.
Wow.
And it was just incredible to work together as a team, because they took it in turns to guide me through the night. And we did 1 hour stints. So I had a couple of night swims and then a couple of day swims, and they were able to guide me, stay next to the boat. That was just an amazing experience. And without the headset, I think I would have really struggled with that.
It sounds like a good find.
Definitely was, yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to the. Well, I don't feel like it feels like I shouldn't say the big one, because you've been to 2 Paralympic Games, but you know what I mean. So you said you had the idea of doing the channel in 2022. Did you investigate whether anyone with partial sight or who was blind has done the channel before? Were you aware that you would have been the first one?
I was aware that somebody had done it who was blind, who was male. I don't know how I was aware of that. I think it had just come up in talks during the Paralympics, because it was last century now, so it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So I think I was aware of that even before I'd even thought about doing it myself. But then I kind of toyed with the idea of doing it, and I researched, went on the internet, as you do, see if I could find anybody who was female who had done it, who was blind, and there's no evidence of anybody who was either partially sighted or blind that's done it, who's a woman. And that kind of made me think, well, yeah, that would be quite cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And also just the personal challenge of doing it, and that you can't, at the time, I couldn't think of anything bigger than doing the channel, and it's like a real iconic swim, isn't it?
Yeah.
You have to sign up for it years in advance. So I think Heather really finally persuaded me to sign up. I think it was 2023, maybe. It must have been 2023, yeah. There's only about 12 pilots that do it every day, if the weather's good. So there's only 12 registered pilots. So the amount of people that want to do it, there's probably 3 slots a week that could be a relay or a solo. So there's a really long waiting list to do it. So they sign it up several years in advance. So I signed up to do it, and then I forgot about it. Well, I didn't forget about it. I parked it for a bit, and it was always in the back of my mind, but I didn't really start training especially hard for it until last year. Although I did start doing cold acclimatization 3 years ago, because that's a huge thing. I quite enjoyed wearing my wetsuit, as we all do, but once I got rid of it, I was glad, because I don't like the restrictions that I've got on my shoulders, and the chafing and all that kind of thing, and all the faffing around, putting it on, taking it off. So yeah, and also I like the feeling of the water on my body.
Yeah.
That's part of the experience. So probably did about three winters of cold water swimming, and I think that was quite important in the preparation. Not necessarily for the crossing itself, but for the qualification swim that you have to do. That was a big challenge cold wise, because it has to be less than 16 degrees with just your swimming costume and hat and goggles on, which was hard, especially seeing as I ended up doing it about 14.8.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Well,
it was really cold.
Yeah. I mean, I almost can't get my head around the fact that, to be blind and to swim the channel. I mean, I can't get my head around swimming the channel, never mind being blind to swim the channel. It's just, and to be the first person to ever do it, you'll always have that. You will always be the first person. I think that's incredible.
Yeah, I can't get my head around it either, to be honest. I know.
And what interest have you had from, the media, and have you had much contact from media companies to cover what you've been doing?
Well, I've had a film crew from Sky Sports that have been following me since Christmas, I think. There was, a couple of years ago, I was contacted by somebody who was a filmmaker who's got a daughter who's visually impaired, and she just wanted to film my story as an open water swimmer. And that was even before I'd signed up to swim the channel. So we kind of done this journey together. So she was going to make her own independent film, and then I signed up to do the channel, so she was going to follow all that as well. And then last year, Sky Sports put a competition together to find some new talent, and I think there was about 40,000 people that put their stories forward to make a film, and she got through to the final. She had to go on this course and then present it all and go and pitch the film, and then she was awarded the funding for it. So now it's been supported by Sky Sports, which is really exciting. So she's been following me all since Christmas, doing interviews and following my training. She was there at the qualification swim and my training in Dover. And then she was on the boat filming that as well. So that's going to be coming out the end of this year. So that'll be interesting. I think the timing is really a little bit unfortunate in a way, because I actually touched France just as the Paralympics started, which was incredibly appropriate for me. But I think there's so much noise around at the moment about the Paralympics that it's kind of taken a bit of a while to get going. I've had a few interviews with radio stations, and had the Central TV and BBC Online and a few different things. I think it's it's slowly starting to get interest, but I think because the Paralympics is around, there's such a big thing, isn't it now? That it's kind of in the background a bit, which is a little bit frustrating, because it'd be nice to get the story out to try and inspire more blind and visually impaired people to try it, because it is a hard sport to get into. But I'd like to help them make their way into it.
Yeah. Well, hopefully by doing things like this, then you're reaching out to lots of people and helping with that for sure.
Yeah, and also for hopefully people who do open water might be open to being a guide for somebody who's visually impaired, because a lot of people need help in getting to the water and getting in the water, and not necessarily swimming an event, but just enjoying being in the water. Bobbing, as we say.
So I want to go through the channel swim itself in a little bit more detail, but just to finish that bit off. So if somebody is a blind swimmer and they're listening to this and they want to get involved in open water swimming, what would be your advice to them?
So actually, there's it's quite soon. I'm not sure when this podcast is going out, but in a couple of weeks' time, there's an event run by a club called 2200 Club, who I think are actually a triathlon club, but they're trying to help visually impaired people find open water. So that's I'll have to send you the details of it, because it's down south somewhere. But anyway, events like that to try and get people into the water and meet other people, I think is really important. But if you struggle to find that event, then contacting British Blind Sports is a good way to start. Then they can help. They can put you in contact with me or other people that might be able to help. British Blind Sports are going to be running a Have a Go Day next year as well, to try and help people access the water and experience it. So hopefully I'll be able to publicise that when I know more details, because I think they suggested January, but I said that's probably not a good idea. It's probably better to wait till the water warms up a bit. Yeah.
Well, if you give me the details of once you have them, we'll put them in the description of the podcast, wherever it goes out to. So people can have a look at that. Is it a similar kind of thing if someone wants to be a guide? Would it be a similar
So I've also set up this Facebook group called Blind Swim Buddies, which people, if you're visually impaired or you have normal sight and you want to help out, can go on to and say where they are and what they're looking for. And I've had quite a few people sort of link up through that. So that's a good, useful thing. So just need to search for Blind Swim Buddies on Facebook.
Yeah, cool. Okay, we'll put the link again. We'll put the link in the description for people to click on. So, let's go back to your channel swim. Talk me through, because we were tracking you, and Corinne was kind of glued to it.
It's addictive, isn't it?
Throughout the day, and we've seen channel swimmers in the past and see the big S kind of shape that they swim, and yours seem to be remarkably straight.
It's crazy, wasn't it?
Yeah. So tell me about the swim, and tell me how you ended up with a straighter line.
Well, I was incredibly lucky, I think. The week before it was really, really windy, and the day before it was windy, and the day afterwards it was windy, and it's been pretty bad ever since. But that day, it was completely perfect conditions in all respects. So the sun was shining, the sky was blue, the wind had dropped. It doesn't look like the channel at all in any of the pictures. It looks like it's the Mediterranean. It's just really still and blue and clear.
Yeah.
And the pilot said there basically didn't seem to be any tide. I'd like to say that I swam so fast that it was a straight line, but I don't think it was much to do with me at all. I think it was that there was just seemed to be no tide until the very end, where it pushed me into France. So the tide came just when I needed it. So the rest of the time it just felt, well, the water felt really soft and smooth, and it just seemed like nothing was happening.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And I think everybody had tracks a bit like that on the day.
Yeah.
And we seemed to be like a flotilla of boats all on top of each other on the tracker. It was quite entertaining. And actually, my crew could see them. There was a group of probably about 6 or 7 boats just around. So it was, people say that it's the loneliest sport to be in, but I didn't feel lonely at all, not at all.
Yeah.
I always felt like I was part of a team and being looked after and cared for. So it was a perfect day.
How long were you expecting it to take you, and how long did it take you?
Well, my boat pilot said an average time was like 13 to 15 hours. Mm-hmm. I was kind of thinking maybe about 13. Mm-hmm. I did it in 12 hours 20.
Yeah.
Which I was pleased about. I would have really liked to get to 12 hours, but 12 hours 20 I was happy with.
So this is your retired guide dog.
Yes. He's 12. He's probably looking for something to eat. There's not anything edible in there, is there?
Well, there's a lot of energy gels, but I don't think you'll find them. Yeah, he doesn't want to eat those. I forgot where we were now. So
I was talking about the channel, wasn't I?
Yeah.
And about the perfect conditions. So yeah, it was an absolutely perfect day in lots of ways, like the weather and the conditions, and kind of my crew were amazing. It was all just an incredible day.
So so you had a crew on the boat who was supporting you. So who was there with you on the day then?
So alongside the film crew, there's obviously the boat crew. So I've got a dog. There's the pilots, boat pilots, and then I had Natalie, who trains with you, and Helen and Heather, who were like swimming friends that have all done open water swims and know what it's like, and what dark places you can go to, and that you can come out the other side, all that kind of thing. So they know me really well, and Natalie especially has swum with me a lot, so she knows what my stroke is like. So if it all starts to go to pot and it'll look like I'm really struggling, then she'd be able to recognise it. So they were amazing crew. They were incredible, supporting me, and I couldn't have asked for a better crew. They were fantastic.
So it must give you a kind of real sense of confidence and a feeling of being safe, that you've got people that you really know and trust keeping an eye out for you.
Yeah, so I really trusted the boat pilots, and I knew they were going to take a good line and a good course, and that they'd look after me. They'd had 100% success rate all season, so there was no pressure at all.
That's a good record, Ben.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And then my 3 girls, I knew I was in really safe hands, and that they knew how hard to push me, and that they definitely had my back. Yeah, so I felt really safe, and like I was saying, that it's said to be like the loneliest sport, but I didn't feel like that at all.
Yeah. So tell me about getting there. Because I understand that you can see. Well, you wouldn't have been able to see the coast, because you can see the coast from a long way off, can't you?
Oh, you mean arriving in France?
Yes, yeah. But what was your vision of it?
Well, they tell you shouldn't look for it.
Okay.
One of the most famous people in channel swimming, Frida Streeter, she said a famous quote that's, don't look forwards, don't look back, just keep swimming till your bits hit the sand. So basically, you're not supposed to look, because you can pretty much see France after about an hour or 2 swimming.
Right.
And then you get to a point where it's there, very obvious. I couldn't see it, but it's obvious for everybody else. But because the tides around the coast of France are so strong that you could see France, and it looked like, apparently you could even see like the houses and the trees. But then because the tides are so strong, they make you go sideways, and then the coast drops away, and it can be like another couple of hours of swimming. So that's why she said don't look forwards, because it can just give you false optimism. But so I didn't try to look, but I did really. And I can remember looking when I turned to breathe, and I thought, oh, it must be France, but actually it was just a wave about to slap my face. So I gave, but I kept trying to look, but it was only probably, I don't know, maybe half an hour, maybe even less than half an hour before the end, but I could see like a brown stripe.
Okay.
That's
France, brown stripe.
Yes.
On the horizon.
And I'd had these visions of running up a beach, feeling the sand under my feet, and like with my arms in the air and all this kind of thing, like, and all my crew swimming in with me, and we having this embracing and like celebrating on the beach and all that kind of thing. Yeah, but it wasn't like that.
So what is it? Tell me.
So what happened was, when you get within a certain distance of France, so I don't know, maybe it's about 100 meters away, the boat doesn't come any closer, so the pilot goes in a little dinghy, comes around the boat, and Natalie was in that with a bright orange t-shirt on, so I could see her, so because the radio wasn't going to last the whole way, and I swam next to Natalie and this dinghy, and that is the most exciting sentence that anybody has ever said to me, was when Heather said to me over the radio, listen very carefully, one of us has got a swimming hat on and the little dinghy's going into the water. And that was the most exciting, incredible experience I've ever had. It was like, no way. It's like all Christmases rolled into one. So then I met up with them, and then they escorted me in towards the beach, and not the beach, towards the coast. And I didn't know I still didn't know if it was beach or rocks. And then Natalie got into the water to take me the rest of the way. She's not allowed to touch me. So nobody's allowed to touch you from the time that you leave England till when you get out of the water in France. Yeah. But I could swim next to her, and I said to her, is it beach? And she said, no, it's rocks. I went, oh shit, I didn't really want it to be rocks. I'm really scared of water on rocks and waves on rocks, because I can't see when it's safe to get out. Yeah. But so we had to go, even though there was no waves, it was such a gentle sea. Okay. It was still pushing us against the rocks, and the waves were still coming over us. So we're trying to climb onto the rocks, and my legs were going up in the air, and we're getting swished about, and Natalie was trying to find a safe rock for me to get out on. They're not flat, they're all like jagged and sloped and covered in all kinds of barnacles and things like that. And I'd been in a talk on one of the camps that I'd gone to, and the speaker had said that basically everybody who lands at the cap gets injured because there's so many sharp rocks and things like that. And I said, I really don't want to get injured. Natalie ended up getting scratched, but I didn't. I managed to find this rock and get out onto it. And instead of having this like amazing footage of me at the end with my arms in the air, shouting and screaming and all that kind of thing, I've kind of like got both feet onto the rock and kind of like one hand on the rock. I'm sort of just going, yeah.
That was your glory moment.
Yeah, it was a bit of a downer, but I got out, and that was the main thing. And it was still incredible. Yeah.
And then what happens then? Do you get?
So you have to go back to the boat. Yeah. Back to the dinghy. I had to try and get into the dinghy, which was quite out of deep water, which was quite hard, very undignified. And then the dinghy takes you back to the boat, and you get onto the boat, and then you go back to Dover. It takes about. Makes you realise how far you swam, because it took about 2.5 hours to get back.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. And did you, tell me what were you obviously feeling pretty elated.
Yeah, well, kind of just a bit disbelief, really. Like, it was such a huge thing to do. And so elated. And we're all like, all of the crew were kind of got really emotional about it. They were in tears, and even the film crew were in tears. And it was quite an amazing journey back. And we saw dolphins. Well, I didn't, but they saw dolphins. Yeah. One of the things that I was really scared about was jellyfish. Mm-hmm. And apparently there were quite a lot of them. The crew had seen them, but they didn't tell me. I was aware of a couple of them. There was one when I turned to breathe to my right, to my left, which is my blind side. And it was just there, sat in the water, just like that. And it was a great big orangey brownie thing and the tendrils came all the way across like this. Nice. And I did a kind of like sort of movement to get around it. And it touched me, but it was like I touched the outside of it and it didn't sting me. So I don't know whether it was a stinger or not, but it still wasn't particularly nice. And then when you get closer to France, you get these, they're called barrel jellyfish, and they're quite hard and big. And I actually swam into a couple of them, but that was quite nice. Well, it's quite exciting because somebody had told me it happens when you get near to France. So, that's good. It's a good sign.
That's a good thing.
And there were quite a lot of those. So, but they don't sting, so that was fine.
So what's you're bound to have been asked this before, maybe come up with something, but what's next?
Yeah, I've been asked that quite a lot.
Your husband's here. Do you know what's next?
Yeah. I'm hoping something easier than the channel.
I don't know. I mean, there is the Triple Crown of the UK, which is the North Channel, the Bristol Channel and the English Channel, but I have absolutely no interest whatsoever in doing the North Channel because really, really cold water, much colder than the English Channel, and it's packed with jellyfish and the tides are really strong. So why anybody wants to do that is beyond me.
Yeah.
Then there's the other Triple Crown, which is around Manhattan and 20 bridges. So you swim all around Manhattan Island, which sounds really cool. And then you do the Catalina Channel in California, which is similar distance to the English Channel. So that's possible. Or I might just do things for fun, but not that I'm not doing it for fun, but, more type 1 fun. Because, like we were one of the camps that I went to this year, they explained there's type 1 fun and type 2 fun. So type 1 fun is when you're actually enjoying it at the time. And it's amazing. You're loving it. The sun's shining. Yeah, just loving being in the water. And it's a great feeling. Type 2 fun is where it's really unpleasant and not very nice at all. But you get out and you love it afterwards.
Yeah.
But I think maybe I'll do a bit of type 1 fun for a bit. I'd love to do there's a swim in the Arctic where you swim from, I can't remember where it is, but basically you start at midnight in one place and you swim, I think it's a couple of kilometers to the destination, but you end up in the day before because you cross the time zone, the date line. That sounds really cool. And it's in the midnight sun as well. So that would be amazing. Yeah. Or the Bosphorus swim is quite nice as well because that's swimming between continents, but it's only about 5 or 6 kilometers. It's not much at all really compared to the channel. So I think maybe a year of doing fun things, but who knows?
Yeah. How long have you been married?
2002, wasn't it?
Good answer.
Yeah.
Well done.
That's
so you've been putting up with this for quite a while then.
I've lived it all.
Yeah.
Pre-Sydney, we met pre-Sydney.
Okay.
And it was all about Sydney 2000. That was
What do you do?
Focus.
What do you do? What's your thing?
Computers.
Okay. Do you sit on the computer?
No. He does sim racing, don't you?
Yeah, that's my hobby.
Yeah. That's much more sensible. Melanie, I think we better start wrapping up because I know you've got to go and pick your one of your children up.
Yeah, although there was one thing that I wanted to say actually, which might be quite relevant to triathlon, or any long distance sport really. So in the run up to the channel swim, obviously I tested all my different nutrition and I'd chosen to go with maltodextrin. And I tested like drinking it every hour, and it worked okay in training. I've done like 7-hour swims and 6-hour swims, and it had been fine. So I went with it for the channel, having it every hour, and up until about 5 hours it was okay. But then about 5 hours I got really, really ill, like felt really sick and really lethargic and overwhelmed by it all. Like just got no energy to do it. And it's very difficult to understand exactly why that happened. I'm not sure why I felt sick, but I think the kind of like the lethargy and feeling really overwhelmed and just tired. And I think that's where you kind of, we say you hit the wall. I think it's where my body had kind of depleted all of its glycogen stores. Yeah. And this maltodextrin thing obviously isn't going to be replacing all of that. And it just made me feel sick. So after that point, I started just drinking water and having like the odd kind of solid snacks. And actually, I felt massively better after that. So it's interesting to know that you can get to a point where you feel awful, but just keep going and your body switches to the fat burning cycle. And I think that's what I did the rest of the channel on. And I just felt so much lighter and so much more full of energy. And it's really interesting. I think if I do something that long again, I might just have water because you can use my body's stores and then just go with the fat burning because for something that's low key like swimming, especially over a longer distance, I don't think you necessarily need to keep drinking all that stuff. And it just didn't help me.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Because we did a video not so long back about, in fact, no, we were planning a video about making your own energy food. And we were looking at a mix of fructose and maltodextrin. And because it's made from rice starch, I think it is, isn't it? And what you describe, it almost sounds like sometimes you can overfuel, and your body's reached its capacity for processing. In fact, I've been there before in long distance races myself, where I've overfueled and had the same kind of sensation as yourself, where I left it for a while, had water, and your kind of body kind of catches up and gets back into its equilibrium a little bit. So I don't know if it was something like that, but yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, it was a very interesting experience. But it's given me a lot of confidence to know that my body can just keep going using the stores that it's got, whether it's like carbohydrates or fat. I could just keep going for hours and hours and feel okay on it. And so it was. Our bodies are incredible, aren't they?
Yeah. Maybe I could talk to you all day. And we got full for talking a lot in these podcasts, so we're trying to be sensible here and keep it a little bit shorter. But thank you very much for coming. If people want to get hold of you, where's the best place for them to go?
Well, I've got I'm on Facebook and Instagram as Blind Girl Swims. So just search for that, and then you can contact me through that if you want to. And also there's the Blind Swim Buddies Facebook group if you want to help out anybody who's visually impaired.
Brilliant. Okay. Melanie, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.